Welcome to the Wig Room, a dressing room confessional where glamour meets chaos.
A career survival comedy and behind the scenes deep dive into the unique world of celebrity impersonation. If you love storytelling by performers who recreate the world's most beloved stars, you've come to the right place. Preparation, competition, aging, self-promotion, and burnout.
I'm Erica, actress, singer, and celebrity impersonator. We're building characters, spilling secrets, and telling the truth about this business. Grit, glitter, and all.
And I'm Kevin, entertainer, producer, talent booking agent, and the proud owner of More Wigs Than Friends. The Wig Room is where we talk gig disasters, diva moments, and why some performers never quit, bringing you iconic songs, signature style, and non-stop excitement.
On this podcast, we break down our favorite characters and impersonations and confess about the gigs that went completely off the rails.
We invite you behind the curtain to expose what really happens when chaos shows its pretty little head.
If these wigs could talk.
If you like us, subscribe and follow.
For our premiere episode, we're going to discuss the performer's life, real stories about how we got into this crazy business. So, what's your story, Kevin? When did you first want to become a performer?
Interesting that you ask. It would take me way back to childhood. Neighborhood, the kids were, wanting to put on little shows, and I remember putting a few up in the garages of different neighborhood houses.
Wait, this sounds like Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney.
Oh.
In the 1930s, remember they had those movies where they're like, let's put on a show. Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland were teenagers and they were like, our town is losing money. Let's put on a show so that our family can stay
I
in
know
our
what you
home.
mean. No, we weren't doing it for those reasons, but I do remember doing it a bit, but not a ton. And it wasn't until my later teens, I did some modeling, local modeling, runway for stores, malls, that kind of thing. And then I got the bug. I decided I wanted to do some theater. So I did a community theater performance of Little Abner. Do you know that play?
That was the first play I was ever in.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding. I was 12.
I was older than that, but that was my first play.
That's nuts.
We're just figuring this out right now, by the way. So, and then from that point, I kind of got the theater bug. I did some more community theater. I did a little bit of touring in Orlando. I had an agent, local commercial work. I was working full time at AT&T, but I was like, you know what? I want to do this full time. And I moved to New York City, and that's where I trained. And did theater, did off Broadway theater, did some tours, got my after card doing a soap opera.
What soap opera were you in?
One Life to Live.
Oh, who did you play?
Neil. I was the Buchanan's assistant, mostly like valet parking and things like that.
I love it.
And I was background, and then they're like, hey, we need, and I did it, and then they kept me as Neil for a bit. And then I got my after card.
That's awesome.
Who knew? And then decided to move to Los Angeles, and I've been doing it since. How about you?
I guess when I was really young, I used to play dress up with my little brother, and my aunt got a video camera when I was about 8, and we borrowed it one summer. So I would dress my little brother up, and I just called him the other day because I knew we were doing this, and I'm like, do you remember when we used to do that? And he's like, why are you calling me?
Was it one of those really big video cameras?
Yeah, it was really big with a VHS.
Okay.
We were kids, so my mom had a lingerie drawer, and I used to just put it on him, and he didn't care. He was 6. He just wanted to hang out with me.
That's why he's asking why you're calling him.
But we used to put on Broadway musicals, and we would lip sync. We would dress up and we would lip sync. And I remember we did Les Mis, and we dressed my little brother up like Cosette, and he sang Castle on a Cloud, and he had a broom, and he was sweeping. And we would also reenact TV sitcoms, like we did The Golden Girls, and we did Me and My Friends, and we did Sisters, remember, with
yes.
Celia Ward. So anyway, I did that all through my teens. I started doing plays in middle school. Little Abner was my first play, and I just got tiny parts. Like my one line in Little Abner was work. In college, I went with a friend to an audition. She was trying out for a student film, and I wasn't going to audition because I was shy. But the director was like, "What's your deal?" You know, so I wound up reading for it, and I got the lead in this student film.
Wow.
And I was like 18. And then I moved to New York, and I studied music in school, and I was in like musicals there and put on little shows. And I started doing student films, and I started doing theater, like black box theater and avant-garde theater and a few festivals and stuff. And then I got a role in a horror film, and then I was like off to the races. Oh, Kevin, how did you get into the world of celebrity impersonating?
Oh, gosh. You know, when I first moved to LA, I met a woman named Lissa, and she was a burgeoning Cher impersonator. Now, she owned her own company, improvisational, interactive events that we would do a lot of. And through that, I was introduced to Brian Mulligan. Brian Mulligan was the very first owner of Celebrity Impersonator business on the West Coast. It was called Mulligan Management. And I believe that we all did Gilligan's Island. I was Gilligan. A good-looking Gilligan, I'd like to say. But I was Gilligan, and that's how I started to get into it. We did it a couple times. Maybe we did one other thing. And then there was a point in time where it became available to purchase. And I always wanted a small business, although I was working full-time elsewhere. I thought, let me check into this. So I did. And Brian said, if you want this business, come and get this stuff, write a check for this amount of money, and it's yours. So I literally drove my SUV there. I took a bunch of costumes that he had, a ton of VHS tapes, this was a while ago, and a pad of paper, just a pad with all of the contacts, talent contacts.
And clients?
And clients. It was all on a notepad.
Oh my gosh.
So I had this was in 2003. So it's not that long ago, right?
Why didn't he have it on a computer?
I have no idea.
He must have been older himself.
You know, old school is old school. Some people just never want to advance. So I did that. I turned my phone on, and I had a celebrity impersonator business.
Wow.
And it was a few years later that I changed the name to Talent Plan Entertainment. And I wanted to open it up to not just celebrity impersonators, but all types of live entertainment. And so we've been doing that now. Mulligan Management was around since 1987. This was back in a time when that novelty was a huge excitement for folks. So they were spending more money to have people flying them business and first class around the world. And that has changed. And we'll talk about that in another episode. But yeah.
Very cool.
How about you?
I was working for this entertainment company called Bravo Parties. It was run by my friend Margie Beck in New York. And we would do like murder mysteries and stuff, like where we'd show up to a corporate event and we would play like archetypal characters. Like I was always the gangster's mall and stuff. And then you would like mingle with the people, and then all of a sudden
I've done them. I did them in New York and out here.
And then the lights would go off, someone would scream, someone would be dead, and then everybody would be eating, and you would line up and be like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I was over, singing with the piano.
God, that was hard theater, live theater. Yeah, people weren't listening, they were eating.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what?
So then I was doing a burlesque performance at the Slipper Room on the Lower East Side. I was playing Scarlett O'Hara. It was a very tame burlesque. I took off my gloves and I had my umbrella that I made, like I bedazzled it. And I sang the song Summertime. And Margie was there. And, I was like, I'll never be hungry again. And, no.
Is that what the character said?
I'll never be hungry again. Whatever, how Scarlett O'Hara does it. So the idea was that she'll become a burlesque dancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she went, okay, that's a different story.
Margie was at the show and she's like, I didn't know you could sing. She's like, would you like to perform as Marilyn Monroe? I have a Rat Pack group and they have a show at BB King's. And Christy Coombs, who played Marilyn Monroe, fabulous Broadway actress.
I didn't know she was a Broadway actress. I know Christy.
Yeah, she was in Annie. You know Christy?
Yeah, I've booked her.
She's very sweet.
Yeah.
Very talented dancer, singer. Anyway, so Christy was pregnant at the time and Margie wanted somebody to fill in for her. So she asked me to do it. And initially I was like, I don't know, that sounds hard. I'm not a Broadway level. Like I was insecure about it. And she's like, well, it pays really good. and so I'm like, I'll do it. So I got a wig and I learned the act. I had to learn a few songs and some banter with the Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and stuff. And then I was like off to the races. I took to it really easily because I always had a passion for old Hollywood, classic Hollywood, and I was familiar with Marilyn Monroe. I'd read her autobiography when I was a kid.
Okay.
So it was a really...
So you were familiar.
Yeah. And then after a few years of doing that, some of the agents that were booking me were like, hey, would you mind doing Lady Gaga? Could you try doing like... Elizabeth Hurley and Austin Powers, or did you do Katy Perry? How about Madonna? And so they started throwing these other characters at me, so I started learning other characters as well.
Okay.
And now I'm up to like 20 characters.
Look, if somebody's not available and we look enough like them, sometimes it works out that way.
Like remember when you called me to do Joan Jett, like with an hour's notice?
I literally was just listening to that music in my car. It was Harrah's Casino in Temecula, and the person who was booked to do it bailed. And it was a big client, it was a big deal, and it was gonna really cost me big in the end if I didn't fix it. And I called Erica, and Erica said, Joan Jett, well, I know some of her songs, and we put you in it, and put you on stage with a guitar. And she performed 4 songs, 3 times or 2 times?
I was wearing that wig.
Oh, that's right. That was the judge.
And Kevin said I had 2 sets, I think. And I remember you said the difference between the first set and the second set was like 3 years of touring.
Completely. Now, mind you, you were learning the songs on the drive down. So this is what happens.
But who doesn't know I love rock and roll? Put
another dime in the jukebox, baby.
What were your first characters?
My very first character would have been Gilligan, when I did Gilligan's Island. And then I went into doing Charlie Chaplin. And I'd done a bunch of Charlie Chaplin, and boy, is he exhausting.
Why?
Because you can't speak, you don't speak. So everything is, you know, it's like doing aerobics. And then, and if it's kids, if it's a bar mitzvah, it's basically they've hired a babysitter.
Why would kids even know who Charlie Chaplin is?
Because they all knew him up at Universal Studios. Now that he's not there, nobody knows who he is. But I wondered the same thing. Why would these kids know me at all? So, you know, you're spinning and you're being jokey and you're doing all these gags. And then I went into doing Joan Rivers, and that's my favorite character, the Queen of Comedy. So I did a lot of red carpet events, and I learned emceeing and red carpet hosting. Yeah, how about you? What are your favorites? Well,
I started with Marilyn Monroe, and that was I love Marilyn because I feel like that she's just in me, that old Hollywood thing. I was really successful with Marilyn, like right off the bat. I got to travel like worldwide and went in the Middle East and Asia and South America, North America, Canada.
I don't think I knew that.
Oh yeah, Dubai, China, Egypt.
Wow.
Yeah, I got treated like Marilyn Monroe, like, you know, very, very well.
Everyone loves Marilyn. And by the way, the #1 character called for is still Marilyn Monroe.
Even for little kids, you know, they just think I'm a princess. And I love Marilyn because it's easy for me to sing her music. I love that genre of music. And anyways, moving on. When I started Marilyn, everyone was like, well, when you do Marilyn, you have to also do Madonna because Madonna dressed like Marilyn. So you just wear the same wig and the same pink dress and you do Madonna as well.
Okay.
So I started doing Madonna as well. And I still do Madonna, but I've just I have a few different incarnations of Madonna as because she did herself. So
yes, she did.
Yeah, and Madonna's tough for me because she's a dancer and I am not a dancer. I hate to break it to everyone.
But you move well.
I move well, but I have to like really memorize. When people want to see that choreography, I have to really memorize it and lock it in.
Okay.
Lady Gaga is another one that I love doing, Lady Gaga, because she started on the Lower East Side and I used to live there in New York City, and so I love her. She's got like she's very theatrical, but she also has like a rock and roll mentality and stuff. So I love doing her.
Yeah.
Britney, of course. I grew up with Britney. I love doing Britney.
I think Britney's one of my favorite characters that you do.
Yeah,
you really step into her, and it's just, you become her.
She's in me.
And in a comedic way. Like, Erica's very funny and bright and comedic as an actress. And you bring that to Britney, which makes it fun for people.
Yeah, and I have her different costumes, and I'll work in like costume changes with her and everything. And my latest character that I'm really working hard on is Dolly Parton. I've always wanted to do Dolly. I feel like her vocal range is like within my range. I love like old country songs and folk music and stuff, and that's so much a part of what she does. So that's another really easy fit for me.
We probably have a photo. We just performed as Joan and Dolly just a week ago.
So I'm working hard on Dolly. I'm watching like a lot of her interviews on YouTube and stuff and trying to get her voice down. But I've also done who else? Katy Perry. Elvira. I hosted a show as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I did Phoebe for Warner Brothers.
Oh, you were fantastic as Phoebe.
Phoebe, I had a
Warner
guitar.
Brothers,
I played all her.
The tour, the set tour at Warner Brothers, and they had her there with her ukulele. Actually, they didn't even ask for the ukulele. You brought the ukulele. They just wanted the image and somebody to be fun and take photos. She's doing Smelly Cat and all the funny songs.
They wanted Smelly Cat. I took it upon myself to learn 15 of Phoebe's other songs.
I didn't know she had that many songs.
Yeah. It's like, there's a curly hair in my back. I don't know, I forget them now.
That was funny. That was a good gig.
Oh, Hillary Clinton I do, and Melania Trump. I also do political impersonations.
And we've done Richard Gere and Julia Roberts.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty Women.
And remember when we did Goldie Hawn and who are you?
Oh, I was
Laugh-In?
just one of the laughing characters. I don't remember one of the hosts. I've forgotten about that. You were funny as Goldie. God, we've done a bunch together. So let's talk about how we first met.
So when I moved to California, I moved for like my film and television illustrious career. And I got here and I was like, well, how am I going to make money? So I looked up the different celebrity impersonating agencies, live entertainment agencies, and I found Talent Plan.
And then we both independently were booked on a L'Oreal convention at the Beverly Hilton, one of the Beverly Hills hotels. I was doing red carpet with all these fabulous women. And then
As Joan Rivers.
So I should have started with that. And then the next hour, they'd also invited Marilyn Monroe. So she came in, I'm like, oh, she's pretty, I don't know her.
And then we started talking, and then I kind of recognized your voice, and somehow, and you were like, I'm Kevin. I'm like, wait, you're Kevin? We realized we've been talking on the phone,
and we're
now
both
I'm
East
meeting
Coasters, so it was like instantly, it was like, okay, this is fun. But that turned into a very strange event, if you remember correctly.
Yes.
And we can go into that now or later, but I'll just touch briefly on it.
No, go all the way into it. We promised we were going to talk about gigs that went off the rails.
This was going, doing a character like Joan Rivers, you always have to be very careful because Joan was brassy, but she wasn't working corporate events. She was doing her own thing on her own stages with her own networks, whatever it was. She was doing her thing and was able to do that. Nobody can get away with it quite like she did. So I'm careful. So we were doing our rounds table to table, and there's this table of women, all women, because everyone was women for the most part, And it was an odd grouping. And so I asked questions like, how do you all know one another? Do you get to do this every city that you get together for conventions? Because they seem to all know one another. And there was somebody at the helm of the table. There was a girl that was sitting next to this one at the head who looked like Victoria Beckham, who was a Spice Girl. So it all of a sudden appeared to me like this might have been a Spice Girls convention. So I said that to them, and they didn't really seem to laugh. But then I was going to other funny things about the group because it was funny to me. There's this energy at the table, and I said, well, is this a fight club?
I don't see anything wrong with that.
And neither did I. But the energy at the table changed, and one of the coordinators says, Joni, let's go over this next table. So I was whisked away and shamed. And before they even brought me my martini, now mind you, we never really drink at events like this. We don't, at corporate events, you just don't, but they were bringing us a martini. So I go to the next table and I'm like mortified. And I says to Erica, I'm like, this is what just happened. She says, what'd you say? Like, don't worry so much about it. Nobody cares.
Who cares? No one cares.
But I cared. It was devastating.
Yeah, I was very, very shamed.
And we never went back to that table.
No, we didn't. And then some hot cowboy showed up. I was like, all right, let's check this guy
So
out.
this one pulls our focus to the hot cowboy center room. And she was right. Did you get to talk to him?
I sure did. Of course.
At that point, I had excused myself and I was off, so I had left, feeling odd with my tail between my legs a bit. But I did wave to the cowboy on the way out. So what else do we have to talk about?
Oh, okay. So what do you think are the differences between this business in New York and LA? Is it different?
Interesting. I mostly know just the West Coast business industry because that's what I've been running and working in. However, I do book some East Coast talent. I realize a couple of things. One, there are far fewer talent doing this. And they usually require higher fees. What about you?
Yes, I definitely made more money and got booked more as Marilyn Monroe on the East Coast. That's part of why I had to diversify and do so many more characters, because here in LA there are a lot of beautiful young girls doing Marilyn. But it's more fine-tuned on the East Coast. People are more specialized. You really lock into one character. And I think there's more of an emphasis on theater in New York and more respect for live entertainment. And LA is more about the film and television industry. I mean, obviously both exist on both coasts, but there's more of a focus in New York on live entertainment.
Do you think it's just that people are just more well-trained
theatrically? Yes. Yeah. I think they gravitate toward New York because they want to be in musical theater. And it's also more of a grind in New York because you're in Manhattan, you probably I didn't have a car. So, and I was getting booked in Long Island and New Jersey and Connecticut. And upstate. And so I was having to take the subway to the Long Island Railroad, to the bus, to a taxi. I mean, I would commute sometimes for it's the Staten Island Ferry, and you're lugging like your sound system.
And then factor in the weather.
The
climate is completely different. So you're dealing with that too. So it's just more difficult to get to them.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm gonna, hop on stage and be glamorous, but not before I look like I'm hiking through the fucking Berkshires or whatever.
A hot mess.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
It's a lot easier here. You just dump everything in the trunk, and we still get gigs all over this area, especially like Palm Springs and San Diego.
Up and down the coast. That's how we do it. Orange County, Los Angeles, San Diego. San Diego actually is one of the top destination management cities, meaning that's where big companies have their conventions and trade shows and big meetings because it's so beautiful down there and it's right by the ocean. Los Angeles has had a harder time with that because there just wasn't much to do here. We've got Hollywood Boulevard. It wasn't until the Hollywood and Highland Center, which is now the Ovation, which was somewhere to bring tourists or people to come into town and have something and somewhere to go. Orange County is a big one because Disney.
Yeah.
But that's why we get called down south so much more. So I'll bet our audience would love to know why we started this podcast. You want to talk about it?
Sure.
Okay, do you remember?
Yes, I remember. So, we're always talking on the phone, preparing for gigs, driving to gigs, and we were on our way to, where was this, in Palm Springs?
Long Beach.
Oh, Long Beach?
I think it was Long Beach. It was a beautiful house, and we were doing Lucy and Ricky. Lucy! And we were just talking about different experiences that we'd had with, bookings that were a mess, weren't coordinated well, or maybe up against other people for them and not getting it. Like, there's other agents here that vie for the same bookings. What else?
We were talking also, like, he's insecure about doing Ricky because Ricky's Cuban. And also he does Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson is black. Yeah. And so Kevin's like, is this okay? And so we were just like chatting about that. We always like tell the client, like, FYI, Kevin is white. And
well, with the Cuban, because if that's the theme, it's Cubano, I don't want to insult anybody.
But they never care.
They haven't cared.
They actually think it's funny. Like, remember when you
We've
were
been
doing...
lucky.
He was doing a Michael Jackson for like a room full of black people, and they thought it was the funniest thing ever.
I think Michael's a little different. And a lot of different people of different ethnicities do play Michael, so I'm okay with it, kind of. I don't do it that often. But so we're driving along, and I'm just like, wouldn't it be interesting for us to have this conversation and let other people in on it? Have put together a podcast, maybe invite other celebrity impersonators, maybe introduce what it's like for us to create a new character from start to finish and take an audience on that ride.
It's not an exact science. It's more about entertainment and, entertaining people.
Yeah.
So we wanted that to be a part of the podcast too.
So for our next episode, titled
Secondhand Fame,
it is the history of celebrity impersonation. So join us again next week
on the Wig Room.
But meanwhile, style that wig, girl.